Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with St. George Groves, now trainer George Groves. George, first of all, it's great to see you and Happy New Year. I always wondered you were one of the big reasons as to why I became a hardcore boxing fan. And when you eventually hung up the gloves, I wondered whether you stay in the sport to some degree. And of course, you did the punditry and commentary and things like that, and would been able to interview you numerous times since your retirement. But in the immediacy, I guess you didn't want to kind of get into boxing in this form that you have now. Why is now the right time as opposed to kind of maybe the immediacy of retirement?
Because I've discovered a future world champion, a supreme talent in Lucas Roehrig from my amateur club. So I wasn't on the lookout to become a coach or be back managing, and I definitely wasn't thinking about investing that much time and energy into that sort of job or role. But with Lucas, who I've got to know over the past few years, he's from my amateur boxing club where I go down and volunteer on a Sunday morning. I try and give a bit back to the club that treated me so well, that I learned so much from by patting the guys down there on a Sunday. But Lucas was down there. He's definitely had star potential, and when he decided he wanted to turn professional, I had a good think about it. I spoke to the missus and I was like, I'd love to work with him, and I think he can get to the top. And it's kind of, if I do it, I've got to be all in, because everything I've ever done, I've had to be all in. I couldn't manage him from afar. You certainly can't train someone, dip in and out. And I hear about it a lot where fighters have like their day-to-day coach, and then they go and see a more experienced coach sporadically. Obviously, that's because those more experienced coaches have other commitments. But if you're going to coach, you got to be all in. So yeah, after speaking with Lucas, I pitched myself. He's like, yeah, let's do it. Signed him as a fighter to be his manager, and then we've been working together. Been coaching him for the past 10 months, I reckon now. And it's not just me as an ex-fighter or a bit of a name attaching myself to a project or to a fighter to try and help them along the way. We're doing it properly. We're in the gym, every week, all week, and he's a pleasure to be around. He's someone who I truly believe in can go to the very top. I've been beating the drum hard for him, because he doesn't have a huge profile to start with. He's not an Olympian. He's got no. I think it is really, unless you're an Olympic medalist, that's the only thing that sort of gets you the heat off the bat. But I've been telling and talking about him to anyone who will listen about how great he is, and he's putting the performances in the gym that are now starting to take note. The guys that he's sparred all rate him, and he's been in there with world champions before his even pro debut. So just shows you, not just the talent of the guy, but his attitude, his philosophy about boxing. He believes in himself, his resilience, he's a great person to be around.
What would you say that your training style is like? Have you got kind of like an MO as to how you want your fighters to execute their game plans on the night? Is it going to be a mesh of maybe a bit of what you did in the ring and their style, or is it all about their style? Have you thought about kind of that sort of side of things?
Absolutely. So I like training because I see a lot of myself in him. You can't get away from that. And if you are trying to do something totally different, then that makes no sense. Don't get me wrong, he's not going to be a carbon copy of what I was, but he's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he's athletic, he's fast, and he's going to be an aggressive counterpuncher. He's not hands high, walk you down, take one to land one. He's not going to skirt around the ring and try and nick a points decision. He's going to be fun to watch. Because if he wasn't fun to watch, he wouldn't be fun to train. If he wasn't fun to train, I wouldn't bother. So, no, he's a lot of similarities to me, and ultimately, he's got to buy into my boxing philosophy to start with. Otherwise, we won't gel. And I always scratch my head a little bit with trainers who say, they can train anyone, because the truth of the matter is you'll have a style and they have to sort of fit that style somewhat. At the same time, you don't want to have just one carbon copy sort of type of fighter, because you can tell trainers who have that, and then you can see when they link up with a fighter whether it's going to work or not. And you're like, if you're training Josh Kelly and you're training Joe Joyce, they're very different fighters. They fight in very different ways. So if they have the same trainer, you'd be like, I don't understand, you know? So that's why different trainers work for different fighters. At the same time, you know, I've got to make them improvements as a coach to then relay them onto the guy I'm training. And I'm fortunate enough to have worked with an array of different coaches, both amateur and pro. And I'm still humble enough as an ex-world champion to be, I'm not a finished article, certainly not as a coach. And I'm willing to invest in becoming better, you know. And if that means opportunities to hang around with other fighters, other coaches, be in the gym, pick their brain, so be it. You know, I think there's no insecurities with me, because I don't need to be an insecure trainer, because I lived and breathed it as a fighter, you know, and I got to the top, and it wasn't easy for me. I had to work hard to do it. I know what I know, and I made mistakes along the way, and so the idea is for me to impart wisdom at times to Lucas, in that, do you know what? That didn't work for me. That did work for me. But also be humble enough and clever enough to know that, well, if it worked for me, don't mean it worked for you or worked for anyone else. Likewise, I couldn't do that, but don't mean that you couldn't do it, you know? So, you know, he's big, he's tall, he's athletic. He can jump higher than I ever could, you know. He's got genetics that I never had. And it's up to me now to teach him as much as I know about boxing. He's still raw in that respect. There's still so much for him to learn. But he wants to learn it, so it's good fun. It's great fun. It's great fun being around him. He's got to naturally mature. He's only 21 years of age, so he's going to naturally toughen up as the years go on. And you know, it's not making him run before he can walk, but at the same time, he's always going to be tested and challenged, because that's what fighters should be. You don't need to be overmatched, and that's not necessarily on fight night. That's in the gym. That's doing the circuits. That's, you know, don't need to leave it in the gym. I know fighters as well who leave in the gym, accumulated injuries, you know, maybe stayed amateur for too long and stuff like that. So, you know, it always is just a punt in terms of what you feel is the right thing to do. But so far so good, and I think this is the perfect time for me now to become a trainer.
I don't mean to give you more work here, but look, as you plan to have the success you have with Lucas, that means that more fighters eventually will knock on your door and say, "Hey George, I'd like to be trained by you." Is there the capacity or the want or the ambition to have more than one here? Or is it just the one for now?
Yeah, well, you never know. But right now, it's definitely one, because it's a full-time job. It's a job I want to do to the best of my abilities. And in terms of training and managing him, at the moment, I'm doing it myself. So, you know, as your career goes on, you do sort of accumulate a strength coach. You might have a media agent. You might have a commercial agent. You might have, you know, a lawyer. You might have there'll be a lot of more shouldering of the burden of the workload. But I just at the moment it's just me, and I'm also learning on the job, doing and making decisions for someone else who wasn't myself. So yeah, in the future, if it happens. But this is the perfect person for me to start my career with, someone from scratch who I can take, I believe, to the very top. So there'll be never questions, hopefully, on me, or like, where's your proof in the pudding? You know, where's your success story? I say, well, I had this guy before he had a pro debut, and look at him now. But yeah, it's a change up. You know, it's a commitment, but it's fun. It's so much fun.
I don't want to keep you too long, so I just want to widen up the door to the wider boxing sphere. And I want to ask you, look, for your trainer's mind then, the fallout from Usyk and Fury 2, did you see anything in the two game plans from Tyson Fury's perspective that if they did have a third fight, that Fury could change the 2 losses to a win?
I don't know. I don't really want to see the third fight. So I thought Fury looked out of shape. He was heavy, and I don't know what the plan was around that. I genuinely think that obviously suffering a loss is always horrific. I can imagine Tyson Fury didn't suffer the loss well. I never ever suffer the loss well, and I don't see that as a weakness. I see that as a strength. You know, you shouldn't get used to losing. You shouldn't have any comfort with losing. And no doubt he had to have a blowout because there would have been so much work that went into that first fight. You know, with the cut and the delay and everything else. He had a blowout. He probably ballooned up in weight, and he wasn't in the best shape for the rematch. That said, he gave a great account of himself, boxed really well, and pushed the best fighter of this era all the way. I thought Usyk won. On my cards on the night when I was working for the BBC, I had 2 10-10 rounds with Usyk winning by 2. But if those 10-10 rounds weren't 10-10 rounds, I would have agreed with the judges' cards, which was 8-4, I think. So, you know, I don't think we need to see it again. I think Usyk's done his bit, especially as a smaller man. He's achieved something phenomenal. So yeah, I think leave that there. I think if Fury wants to box Joshua next, and I think that's a great fight. I think that's still just as big as ever. You know, people will go, how can it be as big as ever? It's not for the belts. Both guys have been beat. We'll still be podcasting about it. We'll still be doing interviews about it. We'll still be writing about it. We'll still be talking about it. It will do huge numbers, be huge amount of interest. Maybe more so now that they've both been beat. There's even a new element of fascination around it. They should fight, because then the winner can come out and say, I was the best British heavyweight of my era. Still can be up for debate. And, you know, sometimes in boxing we like to try and settle the debates. They'll still rumble on, but I would like to see them 2 fight next.
In terms of Usyk, if it is to continue, do you see any of the current crop beating him, or is it a case of that being out-aged would be the major factor as why he would lose if he was to lose at heavyweight? Could be.
You know, it's got to be like the element of desire. You know, he's climbed the mountain now. What else is there? And there's guys who are not as good as him who could beat him. You know, you think like a Martin Bakole might just be a nightmare for him. Do you know what I mean? Might just be too strong. Might catch him. You know, might hurt him. Might not be able to put a dent in him. Might just walk through punches. There might be one of those sort of guys. You know, there might be like a who knows. You know, because you know Usyk's a master in that, like, he don't blow people away in a round. He builds throughout the fight. You know, always like a little bit of a sketchy moment. You think, he's been hurt to the body or he took his foot off the gas that round. But then he comes back at the end of the next round and he goes through the gears and has an art of winning, has a knack for winning. So will he always win? Maybe he always will, as long as he's fit and healthy and has the desire to. So, I don't know. But like the likes of like Moses of Talma, you know, I was just almost blown away by his performance last time out. And nothing's hard for him. It's all just so effortless. I haven't seen him in the gym. I'd love to see him in the gym. I'd love to see him troubled. Do you know what I mean? Like in the gym, to see like, all right, well, how does he deal with overcoming those situations? He's only 19. It's just incredible what he's doing. Would you put him in with like an Usyk next, or even this year? Probably not. He doesn't need to do that. But you know, he's someone who's going to be formidable in the future. I don't think on his day. I think Usyk's almost impossible to beat.
George, pleasure speaking to you. Won't keep you much longer. Thanks for speaking to Seconds. I truly wish you all the best on your trainer's journey in the pro career of boxing. So thank you so much.